Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about the value of a brand. I'm going to kick this off by summarizing a quote from a book written in 1917 by a gentleman named Mac Martin. Now, Martin was a really interesting person. He was a professor of marketing at the University of Minnesota. He had his own agency. He was really focused on truth in advertising and helped start what's called today the Better Business Bureau. What's really interesting, though, he wrote a textbook called Advertising Campaigns. And in that textbook, which is over 100 years old, he talks about a lot of the concepts that are being debated today, like mental availability, sales and marketing alignment, distinctiveness. And so he really knew what was going on from a marketing perspective, even though it was over 100 years ago. But in his book, he quotes a manufacturer as saying, if I had to choose between my plant, which was valued over $2 million, and my brand, I would willingly say, burn down my plant because of the goodwill we've built by advertising over the past 20 years, which is bankable, which will lead to additional investment and have demand. People will come back to us and buy our products. So this manufacturer, the CEO, knew the value of his brand and knew that it was significant. But what's really interesting to me, it's really hard to imagine a SaaS CEO today saying something similar, saying something like, I would rather have my brand than my code base. I mean, I just can't imagine that happening. And so we work with a lot of different B2B SaaS companies, and I've never heard a CEO assign value to their brand. I mean, I hear CEOs say, our brand is, we have a strong brand, or we should invest in brand awareness. But if you actually ask them what the value of their brand is, they wouldn't have an answer. And the question is, why does that matter? Why does the CEO knowing that their brand has value matter? And the reason is because it impacts investment decisions. And so no CEO is going to have to go through and choose between burning down a plant and maintaining their brand. But at a smaller level, those decisions are made every day. Where do we spend our next dollar? Do we put it into brand, or do we put it into something else? And so the important thing about knowing the value of a brand is that it makes it tangible. Without assigning a value, it seems illusory. Like it doesn't have real meaning. It doesn't have a real impact. And so it's easy to reduce investment in brand because the CEO will think, well, maybe people will perceive us, they won't perceive us as strong, or maybe a few people won't know us as well, but we can make that decision. But when you understand it as a value, as you understand what your brand is worth, it makes it easier to make that investment. And a clear example of the value of a brand is from Warren Buffett's investing in Coca-Cola in 1988. Now, Coca-Cola stock had been hammered in the stock market crash of 1987, but Buffett decided to invest anyway. And why is that? Because he and Charlie Munger went down and assessed the value of Coca-Cola's brand, and they thought it was worth more than $100 billion. Yet Coca-Cola as a company was valued at under $20 billion. So what did that get them? Well, they invested $1.3 billion in Coca-Cola. But today they receive more than almost $1 billion in dividends alone. And the stock price is, its worth is almost $25 billion. So that's a lot of billions. So what are the takeaways from this? Well, there's three takeaways. One, you have to realize that your brand has a value. Your brand is more than just how your company is perceived. It has an actual value. And to highlight this, consider this example. There's two companies in a B2B SaaS category, and they're very similar. But for one of the companies, almost every prospect in the category is familiar with that brand. But for the other company, almost none of the prospects are familiar. Which of those companies is worth more? And how much is that familiarity worth? I mean, that's the value of the brand. The second thing is thinking about brand investment. Like I said, it's important to realize that your brand is more than just how your company is perceived or its impact on current sales. An investment in brand is also an investment in future growth. And then the last thing is investing in brand is more than just advertising. Brand investment decisions impact many areas of the company. It could be things like product, it could be customer experience, it could be other marketing channels. It's not just advertising. It's important to think about your brand investment across multiple areas. To wrap things up, over 100 years ago, it was understood that brand had value. And many consumer good companies understand that brand has value. But it seems like that concept has been lost or never discovered in B2B SaaS. So it's important, if you're a CEO of a B2B SaaS company, to understand that your brand actually has value, and use that understanding to help you make investment decisions, to help you understand whether you should be investing in your brand or not.